to Voices Against Violence, a Harmony House podcast to educate, empower, and serve as a voice for survivors. We aim to shed light on crucial issues surrounding domestic violence, offer support, and inspire action for change. Join us as we work together to create a community where all individuals can live a life free of abuse. Charity Jordan Rex, Prevention Program Manager for Harmony House.
Hi, I'm Kirstyn Walker, Assistant Executive Director at Harmony House.
Well, we're doing one of my favorite episodes today, which is a current event episode. Yeah. There's so much going on.
There's a lot happening.
And
off mic, we were just doing some grounding because there's a lot happening right now.
Talking about what was happening, I might have gotten a little heated and needed to take some deep breaths before we actually started recording. But always our goal with these current event episodes is to really help give context and a framework for the stories that you are seeing in the headlines, the stories that are coming through on the algorithms. Because I think without that context, you might look at these stories like, oh, that was just this one person. Isolated incidents. And we really want people to understand that this is a systemic issue.
Right. Draw the connection.
And let's connect the dots.
Yeah.
And see how this actually
plays out in culture.
Yeah. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it.
No, you really can't. And then it leads to Charity and I just trying to do some grounding techniques off podcast. So let me also say that as you're listening to the podcast today, as you're seeing those headlines, as you are scrolling on your phones, please be mindful that if you need some extra support, reach out. Our crisis hotline advocates, we can talk to you if you're having a tough time with the stories that you're seeing or the narratives that you're hearing. Maybe they are feeling very familiar to you. Just know that you are not alone. We believe you and we are here to support you, whether your experience was recent or from the past. We want to be able to be there for you and support you as we go through these topics.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, of course. So there's been a lot of topics there's been a lot of headlines lately about folks in power who have legacies that are generally positive legacies, and then incidents come out decades later in some cases that make us reevaluate the legacy and the way that we have viewed them for some time.
Really, this is kind of an ongoing thing. I feel like, kind of all of my childhood celebrity heroes have been taken down. And, so these stories are always out there. Right. And my two thoughts on this: one, we just have got to stop putting people on these pedestals. And in so doing, kind of, lionizing them, like they're larger than life, they're untouchable, everything they do is perfect. We just have to stop putting people on pedestals because we don't know what they have done elsewhere behind closed doors. Right. And I think when you have folks who are causing harm, who are then put on the pedestal, I think it just increases and validates their desire to cause more harm.
Well, and the risk that we run when we hold folks to this, like you said, like a pedestal or just beyond reproach is it makes it really scary to come forward with instances of abuse or experiences because the feelings of who's going to believe me, right? This person seems untouchable. And then on the flip side of that, when folks do come forward, when they are brave and make that choice to come forward, then folks not believing them.
If you are the one who is the victim of that violence, you really can't win because if you don't come forward, then you do later. Well, like, why didn't you come forward immediately? If you come forward immediately, then like social media and the fans of that prominent person are going to come after you.
Hey, and a very common practice on our podcast is like just debunking myths or just answering some of those questions that come up. And I think that is a really common question, especially when it's decades later. Why didn't they report sooner? Charity, what do we hear from folks when we ask the question, why didn't you report sooner?
So especially when we're talking about these high profile folks, And in this most recent story that's come out, that victim, that survivor, said that one of the reasons she didn't come forward was because that movement that was happening, she didn't want to jeopardize that movement. Sure. I mean, she was part of a huge movement of advocating for workers in a sector that, well, you know, just were not being treated fairly or justly. And she didn't want to jeopardize that movement. You know, I think about some of the celebrity cases that we've had, and, you know, why didn't they come forward? Why weren't the people around that celebrity coming forward? Well, again, we've put them on a pedestal. They're above reproach. They've got, you know, usually they have a lot of money. They have a lot of power. They are connected to people with money and power. So in addition to, are they going to believe me? You now, as the victim, have to go before all of those folks. If it's a high profile, that means you are now high profile. Your story is out there for the world to read. I mean, not to mention the re-traumatization that's going to cause, but the impact of that, both on your life, your family, all of the people around you. Someone's story was a documentary on Netflix. I can't even remember who it was now. And I watched it, and they were saying that they went along, they didn't report what was happening by this celebrity because that celebrity threatened to blackball them. So they would never work in that industry again. So not just the victim, but the people around that celebrity are also victims of that power and control. And so I think we don't appreciate enough the repercussions
of coming forward.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and something I've heard before is I just wanted to get on with my life. Like so much had been taken from me in that experience, in that victimization. I wanted to put it behind me. And then decades later, they felt comfortable coming forward, whatever it might be. But I think that's also a reason that folks don't come forward. They want to distance themselves as far from that experience as possible in that moment.
I think about some of the high profile cases we've seen over the years, and the women, because that's who it is, often women coming forward. And when they finally do come forward, look how they're treated.
Right.
You know, death threats, they've got to get bodyguards if they can afford it. One person had to move her whole family, like just sell their house, move to a different, you know, like, so there's no winning for victims.
No.
And so we ask all the wrong questions in this society. Why didn't you come forward? The question is, why was that person causing that harm? And often authorities are aware.
Why were they protected and allowed to cause that harm for so long?
Thank you.
Not why did you wait so long to come forward?
Why did we wait so long to prosecute that person when people knew they were doing that?
We create a culture that allowed that to continue for so long? We so often put the responsibility on the victim.
Always on the victim.
It's always on the victim.
When it comes to these kinds of crimes.
Right.
If your house burns down, I've never heard anyone say, well, why did you have all that flammable stuff in your house? You know, it's only if it's a crime that primarily impacts women. And we've got to stop putting the onus and the responsibility on the victim for the crime that happened to them and start asking questions of the perpetrators.
So I guess a major takeaway as I'm seeing headlines, as I see news stories continue to roll out, is to check myself. And when I hear something upsetting or that does not fit in the narrative I have constructed about a person, to remind myself, I do not know that person. I do not know what they are capable of, or what crime or harm they may have caused. And so to not put anybody on a pedestal, like you said, and really believe survivors when they come forward. I feel that I think you described it as just like a letdown or like a disappointment. You said like all my childhood, like celebrities. Like I feel that though. It does feel like a letdown when you learn about this.
But also, okay, just real quick, because I know we've got other current events that we want to touch on. You know, so many, like just go through Netflix, so many documentaries about these high profile people who are in positions of power and control. And of course, someone who wants to have power and control over others are going to put themselves in roles where they have access
to other people.
That makes
sense.
And so I just think, I'm always going to be skeptical now going forward. What are, the producers and the directors behind this kid show? What are they doing? The managers for I think we have to not just like, oh my gosh, they're so great. But
look at things with a critical eye.
Maybe, let's be a little more curious when we are thinking about those folks, because honestly, they are there and have put themselves in that position because they knew they would have access to people that they could exploit.
So you brought up the idea of documentaries, which I think is maybe a segue into one of the topics we wanted to talk about today, because there are a lot of documentaries growing on multiple streaming platforms that really do a deep dive into beauty standards. So I can think of one in particular that's getting a lot of attraction around a very popular contest from the early aughts around beauty standards.
Can I just say, once again, this was a reminder for myself,
ran home to watch it daily.
I loved that show.
I know. Me too.
And it's like, okay, Charity, everyone's a monster. You just
No, but so that's just one example. But so that it brings us to the overarching kind of theme that we did want to talk about, which was the beauty industry and how a lot of our beauty standards are built around a certain ideal that is typically found in prepubescent people. So Charity sent me a link to an NPR article around just our ideas of beauty. And they brought up the idea of smooth skin, thinness, hairlessness. Where are these things? Where do we find these things? We find them in prepubescent girls. And so this idea that all of our beauty standards are linked to young girls.
Yeah, some of the examples that they point out, are kind of cultural touch points. They talk about Brooke Shields, and she did that iconic advertisement for jeans, and it was a very sexualized commercial.
And she was a child.
Yeah. They also talked about the Olsen twins.
I remember this.
I remember that when they that countdown when they were about to turn 18 and would be legal.
Right.
So gross and disgusting.
And they were not the only celebrity children that had this happen to them. But I do remember that countdown. I remember that it was a thing. And I mean, I thought it was gross at the time, but I don't know that I had the words to describe it. I don't think I had the words to describe it as a problem or why it made me feel uncomfortable.
Same.
But I knew that something about it was not right. And so now looking back and just recognizing in all of the ways that we sexualize young girls in the media, and how does that cross over into day-to-day life? So I sent Charity a TED Talk. There's a feminist researcher, author, Jean Kilbourne, and she has some great information and great books on this topic. One of her books is called So Sexy, So Soon, the sexualized childhood and what parents can do to protect their children. But there are so many documentaries. Brooke Shields got one out right now that really breaks down what she experienced in the industry and what it was like for her being so sexualized at such a young age.
I think the result of that, seeing it in our pop culture and all forms of media, it really normalizes it. And no one is really talking about that. And this is another area. This is one of my kind of gender soapboxes. There's so much sexualization around girls. And that's my first point. When these stories come up, the young women, no, these are children. So let's, the story about the really rich person with his own island, the young women, no, those were children. Let's use the appropriate term. Let's stop making them seem older than they are. Let's call a spade a spade. So someone who is a minor, that is a child.
Right.
But also we only see this with girls. We don't see this play out with boys
in the media.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, boys can be the victims. That's not what you're saying.
I mean, no, yes, right. Absolutely. They can be the victim, but they are not sexualized in our media
the way that girls are.
Yeah. sometimes I'll come across, something on social media where someone will have a picture of like their baby girl in like some heels, and it's cute, but at the same time, I'm thinking, oh.
The clothing options is new to me. I'm not a parent, and so I have not spent a lot of time in like the young sections of clothing stores, but I keep coming across videos and TikToks on social media around cutouts in girls' bathing suits.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know this was a thing, but like the same styles that I would wear as an adult woman with like cutouts.
Yeah.
Are also being made in a younger bathing suit. So that I didn't know that was a thing.
Like, why? Why do we have those cutouts in children's bathing suits? They don't.
It's the same feel when I see like Halloween costumes that are really risque, but they call it sassy, right? But like it's sexy. That's a sexy costume, but they've rebranded it as sassy so they can target a younger audience for it so that parents will buy it, right? And so just this hypersexualization, it's really interesting the way that our culture is built our beauty standards around being so young.
The one of the kind of consequences of that, and I feel like I heard someone say this recently, like on a show or something, when you are sexualizing girls at this age, then when something happens, when they are a victim of some sexual violence, then it's easy to go from, well, we've sexualized them to, well, and what this person said was, well, she probably led him on.
We say it often. The first step in committing acts of violence against somebody is seeing them as less than human. And part of sexualization is objectification. It's turning them into a sexual object of desire. And so if you can see somebody as an object, it becomes easier to commit violence against them and easier then for people to victim blame, which we know is never acceptable or right, but it happens. People are saying things like they led them on, or what were they wearing, which is one that we have to kind of debunk often.
Oh my gosh. What were they wearing? I love that one. If you've ever seen that exhibit and they have the outfits of what women were wearing when they were sexually assaulted, like 99% of them are like, one's just a sweat. It's like a sweatshirt and sweat,
because it also speaks to the fact that the majority of sexual violence happens in or around someone's home. So of course you're wearing things that you wear around your home, right? Like it's, anyway. Okay. So those are certainly some headlines to be aware of right now. And again, if you are needing extra support, wanting to talk, please reach out to an advocate. We have some good news. Do you want me to share the good news?
Okay, just
keep going.
Just really quickly, how should people be thinking about, let's say, these ads when they see these ads? My own personal take is that those are teachable moments, especially if you have young people pointing out that, like, no, that's not how we talk about girls. No, that's not a woman. That's a like, I think we have to counteract those messages when we can.
Well, and it speaks to media literacy, which is a lost skill in some arenas, but like media literacy and really asking yourself, what am I being sold here? Because if it's an ad, we're being sold something.
Yes.
Right. And so ask yourself, who created this? Whose best interest is it for me to purchase the thing that they are selling? How are they trying to appeal to me to get me to sell it? Is it by making me feel like I'll be more beautiful, younger, whatever, smarter, more successful, whatever it might be, based on what they're selling? And really just dissecting those ads and asking yourself, what does this ad say about the people that are being portrayed in the ad?
Who I think about, who are they exploiting and who's benefiting from that?
Right.
And then I try not to, buy whatever that is, or, not patronize that company. Because some companies are worse than others about really using a lot of young children sexually to sell whatever. And so I try not to patronize those. Yeah. But I love how you say, like, get curious. Get
curious and really just to do it. I think one thing we do is stop taking things in the media, the advertisements that we see. Tune in, right? Because your brain is consuming it. So that's one thing that Jean Kilborn gets into in her research is she says, a lot of people say like, oh, I don't really pay attention to them, but your brain is. So whether you're conscious of it or not, you are paying attention to it. Mm-hmm. I know that you are because I know I can show you a dozen logos and you'd be able to tell me what brand they're for.
Yeah.
So I know that you are paying attention. So your brain is paying attention. So let's just dig a little deeper and ask yourself those important media literacy questions.
Yes, love that. Okay. You said you had some good news.
I do.
Give us some good news. We need all of the small incremental moments of good news that we can
muster. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, recently in the past month, the Missouri House and the Missouri Senate passed a bill that allows for divorce while pregnant. So some of you listening may not have even known that prior to this bill, a divorce could be delayed if somebody was pregnant, if they had not yet given birth. And this bill put forth by Cecily Williams, a representative who's experienced domestic violence, has been very forthcoming about her own experience and the barriers that she experienced when trying to come forward about her experience. She's put this forth and has really been an advocate for survivors. Charity and I got to meet her. Charity, I don't know what you want to share about that experience and getting to meet her.
I mean, shout out to Cecily Williams. Like, first of all, she has an incredible story. And, there were lots of bills up for debate that, are supportive of survivors. And so she's fighting the good fight. But Kirstyn, tell us why this matters. Because I did hear someone say, well, why do we want families to split up if they're, if someone's pregnant?
So it matters because consider somebody who's experiencing domestic violence and is pregnant. So all of those questions that we ask survivors, why didn't you report? Why didn't you leave? Right? Maybe they didn't leave because the systems in place wouldn't allow them to leave because they were pregnant. So Cecily Williams has a quote here. It's about offering survivors like me the chance to find safety, to begin healing, and to reclaim the life that was stolen from them. So it puts survivors in a safer space to be able to leave their abusers in a legal in a legal sense, the fact that they can get divorced now, which, as Charity points out, right, when something is safer for a group of folks, it is safer like as a community as a whole. So this really is a big win for domestic violence survivors.
Yes, it is. And I am so glad that has passed. Last year, they banned child marriage.
Right.
So we're really on a roll.
Yeah.
And
there were so many more bills this year.
So many.
So Charity and I experienced the advocacy days with the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, and the bills of interest. There were a lot of bills of interest that directly impacted survivors this year that we got to go and speak to representatives about.
Yeah, it was so exciting. Last year, I think there were 3. This year, there were 11. And even if they don't all pass, what that tells me is that this is on their radar. They're talking about it. And so if this is an issue you care about, like, reach out to your elected officials and let them know, yes, thank you for supporting survivors.
And on that note, if you want to learn more about any of these issues, check out the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. They have a legislative advocacy page where you can learn all about bills and learn about how you as an individual can advocate.
That's a great idea. And just remember that women are safer when they have more choices.
Yeah. Well, this was our current events episode. Appreciate you joining us for it. I feel like Charity and I got to be a little bit of newscasters.
You got to hear our hot takes. I enjoyed
today's top headlines.
Yeah. Thanks, okay. Kirstyn.
Thank you, Charity. And thanks for all our listeners. And please take care of yourselves as you are hearing more and more news stories.
All individuals have a right to a life free of abuse. If you or someone you know needs help, please call our 24-hour hotline, 417-864-SAFE, 417-864-7233, or chat 24/7 with an advocate on our website at myharmonyhouse.org. Visit our website or follow us on our socials to stay up on the latest news and events. This is Voices Against Violence. Thanks for listening.